Hi, my name is Joseph Rory, and I'm with the Barrett C. Metz School of Common Law. You can contact us by emailing us at dueprocessexplained@gmail.com. Now, we've studied here so far about the oaths, and we've established that the oath was religiously mandated into the Constitution, by the way. Mandated is a term, and it is an absolute that you must do. And there must be a God behind that oath. Now, we established the definition of oath, and we know that any other play of words using the word oath would not really fit the definition of oath, especially since it was found in the Constitution. Then we must go by what it meant in the Constitution in those days, any reference to that word and what it meant. And it's pretty easy to fit with the rest of the background that was going on with all the state constitutions. And we're going to also cover the Articles of Confederation and the Declaration of Independence, all the Christian statements made in them. We'll be putting into this series. Now, before I get into the next clause, I did want to get one more in about the oath. And this was a political book called Political Class Book, an 1838 edition. And I want to get that in, where it says, "There is now no civil and religious union in this state, otherwise than that it is the duty of the legislature to provide for religious instruction. That this duty should be performed may be shown in many ways, and among others in this: every military and civil officer, legislator, judge, lawyer, juror, witness, town officer, and many others who take on themselves special trust and duties are required to bind themselves by the solemnity of an oath. In all these cases, the agents are required to appeal to him," all in capital words, letters, and was in the original book, "from whom no secrets are hid, and to submit themselves to his just judgment if they do not that which in his presence they undertake to do. An oath supposes that he who takes it believes that there is a God who will, in a future life, reward the worthy and punish the wicked. It is therefore held by divine and human laws," that's both laws, "to be a crime of the deepest dye to speak as true that which those spoken to cannot know what is true otherwise than by believing that a speaker would not dare to deceive men in the presence of that being who cannot be deceived." And that is quoted in the classroom books taught to the students of the United States and of the states in which this book was published. Andrew Young's books, I have found it in other states, printed and taught in their states. I probably couldn't swear that they were, or go under oath, that they were in every state. But I have found that his book printed and used in at least 3 states. And that's in the Political Class Book, intended to instruct the higher classes in school. Section 392, page 139. It's 1838 edition. All right. I want to go on now to the next clause that we're going to discuss, and it's going to be the term Sunday accepted. And I think to get this sort of quickened, I probably need to just read some of my old notes as well and quote as I go to make these down to reasonable time schedules for you. Sunday accepted. In the second religious clause we cover here is the term Sunday accepted. It does not take a scholar to know that this clause, Sunday accepted, is a Christian practice to avoid working on Sunday. Sunday is the day that has been set aside since the day of the apostles. If there is no connection to the federal Constitution and, quote, Sunday accepted, unquote, than to the Christian worship day, Then where can we connect this special day exempted out of the numeration demanded in the clause and carefully asserted, placed in parentheses at that, those that would claim total separation of church and state has already lost the total part of their position. For this phrase is clear that it will be taking honor to Sunday, which is the first day of the week called, quote, the Lord's Day in the Bible. Because of the resurrection of Jesus Christ on that day. Sunday accepted can only refer to the only religion recognized at the time of the ratification, which historically has fully acceptance among the people of the time and by those ratifying the Constitution, having this clear Christian reservation of this day. The doctrine of Sunday being a Christian choice for the day to lay aside for the gathering of the saints was founded by the early Christians in the beginning of the New Testament church. The statement in 1 Corinthians 16:2, and Paul confirmed the celebration and meeting to be on the first day of the week, Sunday. The Acts of the Apostles in Acts 20 Verse 7 shows that the Christian choice of meeting was on Sunday, the first day of the week, referenced throughout the gospel written in the times of the early established church, gives attention to the, quote, first day of the week. The choice coming from the fact that no commands were given as to what day would replace the old Sabbath laws, chose the day that the Lord manifested to his disciples on the day as shown in Matthew 28:1, Mark 16:9, John 20 verse 1, John 20:19, John 20:26, and Revelations 1:10. The history of Sunday worship has been recorded as a strict Christian day for the gathering of the saints with the similar connoting beliefs as to the Sabbath day of the Old Covenant. We find in the early writings such reference in Agatius, the bishop of Antioch, that lived 30 to 107 A.D., and a disciple of John. Quote, and after the observance of the Sabbath that the Jews kept, in parentheses he puts, let every friend of Christ keep the Lord's Day as a festival of the resurrection day, the queen and chief of all days of the week, on which our life sprang up again and victory over death was obtained in Christ. It is absurd to speak of Jesus Christ with the tongue, and to cherish in the mind a Judaism which has come to an end. Early teachings, of course. And of course, okay, I accept that. There's arguments on that. And if any man preach the Jewish law unto you, listen not to him, for it is better to hearken to Christian doctrine from a man who is circumcised than to a Judaism from one uncircumcised. And this is found in the Ante-Nicene Fathers, Volume 1, page 63 through 82, which I had cut pieces out in order to find short statements here. Next, we find the Epistle of Barnabas, also from the Ante-Nicene Fathers, stating, your new moons and your Sabbaths I cannot endure. Ye perceive how he speaks. Your present Sabbaths are not acceptable to me. I will make a beginning of the 8th day, that is, a beginning of another world. Wherefore also we keep the 8th day with joyfulness, the day on which Jesus rose again from the dead. Volume 1 of the same works, page 147. He's calling it the 8th day, and this is just, the pattern of the times. We're now really clear on a calendar, and we really roll the calendar over like it's Bible. But whatever, they had their separate ways of putting the day after the Sabbath. He counted the 8th then. But it was not the Sabbath. All right. In the teachings of the 12 apostles written in 80 AD, we read, quote, "Break your fast the first day of the week, which is the Lord's day, to do ye gather yourselves together and break bread and give thanksgiving." That's volume 7, page 381. It is commonly taught that Constantine started this when passing the law for the first day, Sunday, to be observed, but in light of the quotes above, we find that the Christians had already made Sunday the day set aside for them. While Constantine cannot be accredited with the origin of this change in the practice of Sunday, we still can add him to the historical record of what Sunday means when being set aside, as it was in the early church. So, it is to be with Constantine and also being set aside here in the federal constitution 1487 or about years later. No other reason can be given to this parenthesized assertion of laying aside Sunday so as to be numbered in the days required. It is this apparent stroke of the pen that Christianity leaves its mark behind the penman, and all those that ratified those very words, Sunday accepted. Got to put emphasis here because Sunday accepted is in your Constitution. Only Christians could have done that. We can't put another religion to it. If it has no religious connotation, then what is it? Is it really just a coincidence that it just landed with Christians' first day of the week and celebration of the Lord's resurrection? Well, you might have had that as a good point to argue if we couldn't verify that these were Christians, and we couldn't verify they didn't have already state constitutions mandating all this, and that it was just a clear and obvious practice of their times, then maybe we could say, whoa, look at that, a coincidence. In light of all that, no. In fact, the clerical gloss is added with the glaring declaration that clears any suspicion of pure secularism. The permanent sheen placed here glazes over with a sealing effect to span many generations the protected message left here. Sunday is a strict Christian belief that sets aside the day Sunday for the purpose of honoring Jesus Christ. The fact that the Constitution has this religious exception placed snugly in the coziest place when counting workdays. In her articles is a clear voice of the self-proclamation of Christianity loud and clear. A true constitutional mandate that establishes, like the oath mentioned above, a form of religion, but as we will find out, a form that is not contrary to the people. Now, that's contrary to a lot of people today, especially with the courts trying to back them up and giving them equality and respect, and we're supposed to honor them. Not in the Bible, okay? You don't honor them, you don't respect them, you go ahead and know that they're teaching false doctrines and that they're heathens, they're uncovenanted with God, and they're not born again, etc., because you can't be born again believing everything in the world. You're going to have to put your faith in Jesus Christ. You're going to have to put your faith in the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. That's it. No other way. All right. Another law of the United States that concerned the day called Sunday, and we're just going to talk about the laws that it was established. And, there's so much here. I'm not going to stand on it all because there's so much to try to cover here. But, the United States even translated the Bible. I think they actually issued 20,000 of these Bibles. They can still be found. They're fairly high on eBay, which is the main source of finding them when they do show up. You'll pay a pretty penny, if not a gorgeous penny. But for that translation done by the United States government. Well, what do you know? The government involved in religion and Bible. And of course, there was laws as well. We want to get this cleared about the laws of, and maybe in a different video, we'll even go over laws where they set up to go and teach the Indians the gospel, and they actually had Congress pass legislation for that purpose. Anyway, Sunday acceptance is our subject right now, and here it says, when a note falls due on Sunday or on leading holidays, when general business is suspended, 4th of July, Thanksgiving, Christmas, or New Year's, for instance, demand for its payment must be made on Sunday or the day preceding the holiday. Wales, that's in Wales, every man his own lawyer. And United States Form Book, page 152, 1858. We find also in the same book on the following page the statement, in many states, the making of a promissory note on Sunday renders it worthless. We can see that Sunday is more powerful than the laws of promissory notes when written up on her day. We see the Sunday accepted is not only the federal constitution but was among the several states as well. And we saw that in the previous videos of the separation of church and state where I went over the Constitution. In light of all the evidence, each one of these, even if it's a biblical edition, it still impacts more of the truth of the time. So we're going to get in now to the law of nations. What is the law of nations? I mean, when you think, well, what's that got to do with religious America, the Constitution? Well, we'll find out. It says right here, and some of this is my notes, and I will be quoting Bouvier's dictionary, etc. The Law of Nations was first written in 1758 by Emmerich de Vitel. The purpose was to form a rule of law as to how, quote, the Christian nations would respect one another while engaged in international affairs. Now, you know, history is not taught in the schools properly, and if anybody talked about the Law of Nations, they surely didn't tell you that that was a Christian organization designed to put all the Christian countries together to work things out on how they would work with each other in the affairs, and when people come to your country and you come to theirs, and then when you're out there in the high seas and etc. And that was written by Christians for the purpose of Christianity. The United States must have been a Christian nation or it couldn't have joined. Okay? So think about it. The system of rules which Christian, now this is the definition of law of nations. The system of rules which Christian states acknowledge to be obligatory upon them in their relations to each other and to each other's subjects. It is the just inter gentes as distinguished from the just gentile. See Bouvier's Law Dictionary, page 730, 1870 edition. And of course, that same statement was repeated in the Encyclopedia Law Dictionary in 1912. It may serve valuable that the first edition of the Black's Law Dictionary in 1891 did not retain the earlier truths about the Christian aspects of the law of nations, which fails to properly define what the law of nations were all about. Hence the lost truth because of the 8 subsequent editions of Black's Law Dictionaries continue to give the degenerated definition and fails to educate the modern jurist. Well, you know, and I have promised that I will get into the law dictionaries, showing that they too changed words like I did on the Merriam-Webster videos, and the time will be coming. There's just so much to cover, and gee, I don't know when I can get to all of it, but we will try to get to some of this, and if you want to respond and send, say, a note reminding me to, or for that matter, suggest a subject matter, please do that at dueprocessexplained@gmail.com. It may have registered to the listener by now that the laws of nations, being understood as a compact among Christian states/nations, would therefore answer the question as to how the United States applied to be a part of it. If we listen to the Supreme Court of modern times, we will be told that we were not Christian, but that we were in between religions, accepting all of them. If that be the case, then that would mean we could not join the law of nations because it was set up for the Christian nations only. We would also like to point out here that as the modern changes to the international laws have strayed far from the original law of nations as written by Vattel, and the very edition was incorporated into the United States. And we found that in Article 1, Section 8, about the punishments of offending the law of nations, offending this Christian organization. Okay, let's get it understood what's going on in this Constitution of the time. What was the law of nations, and what was oath, what was blessings. Well, we're covering that for you so that you will know this. We should also like to point out here that in the modern changes of the international laws have strayed far from the original laws of nations as written by Vattel, and that very edition was incorporated to the United States Constitution 1789. Then it would be a violation of Congress to change any clause from Vattel's book without going through Article 5 to amend the changes. Now, you know, it got incorporated in there. So what it said in 1789 is what Congress talked about. Any changes after that, Congress is not talking about. It could not possibly have been talking about the new international laws and any added features or clauses that and rearrangements and etc. could not possibly be accepted by the powers of the Constitution and the ratifiers that put this in here. And so we should note that in all the federal circuit courts, when given the first instructions to the grand jury, John Jay told them straight out that the law of nations was a part of the laws of this country. Now, we're going to close out here, just cover a couple at a time. We've got some more clauses to do. If it takes 4 or 5 of these videos just to get this part done, that's fine. At least it's short enough. What we need to do is recap here a little bit. We've more than proved that the Christians were behind the Constitution. We more than proved that the words that they used had set definitions. If they don't have set definitions, we don't have anything to go on anyway. There's no sense in arguing anything. If we can't discipline ourselves to a defined term, then we have nothing to say at any time. We don't have to listen to anybody because there is no discipline definition to work with. There's no set definition, no fixed meaning. So we have here proof that we are a Christian country, and only Christians would have made a Christian country. They wouldn't have said, well, let's all backslide, go against God, and let's just form a country that'll accept any old sham that comes out as a belief, and we'll equalize it, and we'll just give them the same respect. Does that sound like a Christian? Well, if it does, you haven't read your Bible. And if your Bible is different on this right here, then what is a Christian? A biased person that believes only in Jesus Christ and Him crucified. And any other religion is to be rejected, even rebuked. So we do know that the fingerprints, the DNA is understood, any kind of evidence that who handled these papers, who was behind these papers, we know who it was, Christians. And that they were either Christians when they did it, or they were heathens when they did it. But we find too much difference, so there's no way to give them that status. So I'm going to close on out here, and I pray that everybody gets this understood, because our country needs back where it was. And that's a strict Christian country until Shiloh comes.